Hello everyone. Today I will be talking about post-traumatic stress disorder, also known as PTSD. And honestly, PTSD is often misunderstood as a simply stress after trauma, but in reality, it's much complex psychological disorder that can deeply affect memory, emotions, perception of danger, and daily functioning. So one of the reasons I choose this topic is because I personally seen how the trauma can affect people over a long period of time, and I wanted to better understand how the brain and the body responds to traumatic experiences. So because PTSD is such a broad and complex disorder, I will mainly be giving a summarized overview of some of its most important psychological aspects rather than covering every single detail. So, first, first of all, PTSD is a psychological disorder that can develop after many different traumatic experiences, like war, natural disasters, sexual assault, abuse, terrorism, torture, or other traumatic situations. And something important to mention is that PTSD can affect people very differently depending on the trauma, uh, depending the environment and even the personal factors like age, genetic, culture, or support system. And according to the DSM-5-TR, PTSD involves much more than simply remembering trauma. In many cases, the brain and the nervous systems continue reacting as if the danger was still happening in the present moment. Because of that, people may experience symptoms like intrusive memories, nightmares, flashbacks, emotional numbness, hypervigilance, irritability, sleep disturbance, or avoidance behaviors. Uh, like, for example, a loud sound, certain smells, or even specific places can trigger intense emotional or physical reaction because the brain is still comparing those things with a traumatic experience. So over time, PTSD can also affect relationships, concentration, work performance, and a person's overall sense of safety. Something else I found really interesting while I was researching this topic is that PTSD can develop at almost any age, and not only in adults or soldiers that most people think. So, for example, a children that may process trauma differently because their emotional and cognitive system are still developing. And researchers also believe that factors like sex, economic conditions, family support, previous trauma uh, situations, uh, and access to mental health care can influence how PTS becomes. So, now that we understand the disorder itself a little bit better, I wanted to briefly talk about some important concepts as, that are important with PTSD. So the three terms that will focus is hypervigilance, solar heart, and amygdala. So the first term that is hypervigilance, which is basically when the body and the mind stay in constant high alert. Uh, People with PTSD may constantly like scan the environment for danger, uh, struggle to relax, or have sleep problems because their nervous system remain in survival mode even when they are technically safe. The next term is soldier horde. It was mentioned in the book, which was actually an older historical term used before PTSD was officially recognized, and describes soldiers returning from war with symptoms like anxiety, fear, emotional distress, or rapid heartbeat. So even before modern psychology fully understood PTSD, people were already observing trauma-related symptoms in soldiers. And last one of the most important brain structure involved in PTSD is the amygdala. Basically, the amygdala works like the brain alarm because it helps process fear and detect danger. In people with PTSD, the amygdala can become overly sensitive, meaning that the brain reacts strongly to a reminder of trauma, even if the person is currently safe. So now, moving a little bit more into psychological side of PTSD, psychologists use different explanatory models to better understand how trauma affect behavior, emotion, and the brain. So the first is the biological model, explains PTSD through changes in the brain, uh, the brain functioning and the nervous system. Research show that areas like the amygdala, the hippocampus, and the stress response system can become dysregulated after trauma, causing the brain to remain highly sensitive to danger and stress. The next perspective is the cognitive behavioral model, which is actually one of the main approaches used to understand the treat for PTSD. This model is uh, is how the traumatic experience can change a person's thoughts, behaviors, and perception of safety. And honestly, this is where therapy become really important. And finally, the social cultural model explains how social support, culture, the environment, and the like experience can influence PTSD. For example, factors like family support, financial stress, exposed to violence, or cultural attitude toward mental health may affect both symptoms and the recovery process. And well, also speaking more about treatment approaches, PTSD is commonly treated through psychotherapy, medication, or sometimes a combination of both. One of the most effective treatment is trauma-focused CBT, which help individuals process traumatic memories and change hormone throughout part of the time. And and in some cases, medications such as antidepressants are prescribed to help manage symptoms like anxiety, depression, or sleep disturbance. And before ending the presentation, I also wanted to briefly explain why this topic became personally meaningful to me. PTSD became more personal through my stepfather, who is a veteran from Iraq War. And well, I met him around 5 years ago after he had already gone through one of the hardest periods of his life caused PTSD, and he shared with me how trauma affect him emotionally and led to problems such as alcohol abuse, constant fights, suicidal thoughts, and difficulties adjusting back to civilian life. But over time, he rebuilt his life through therapy, support from friends. He started practicing some sport, and he was interested in music, especially through playing in a rock band, which became an important emotional outlet for him. So today, he's no longer experiencing the severe symptoms he once struggled, and now he participates in veterans events and PTS awareness activities to support other veterans. So honestly, hearing his experience made me realize that PTSD is much more than just stress after trauma. It's a serious psychological condition that can deeply affect people's lives, but also show me that recovery and healing are possible with sport, treatment, and also healthy coping mechanisms. So yeah, that will be it. So thank you for you to listen me, and I hope the presentation helped provide a better understanding of how PTSD works.